So welcome to the day one of consulting. This is part of the RISE 5, which will, as I mentioned earlier, will get the details of how you diversify your current knowledge by utilizing it for the purpose of diversification in consulting and relevant activities. And RISE 5 is divided into 4 days, right? Which the first day will talk about consulting and its principles, followed by the traits and the types of consulting that go into play. Then we'll follow this with successful consulting related outcomes that come about, so that hypothetically you would know what sort of consulting outcome that one could realize to be successful in your own domain, right? With that, we'll end up with some best practices, and throughout these proceedings we'll have challenges in form of creating case studies, right? You will be given a topic. There would be case studies that you will work upon by analysis and the various principles that will be mentioned through, and then during our RISE circles we'll go through them and we'll pick the top 3 and then kind of go into details of each of them, and then I'll give the point of view that I think it should have been or otherwise. Okay, and in the process you will be in a position to ask the relevant questions, which then, if answerable, could be mentioned accordingly. Okay, so the first 4 days will encompass the larger consulting principles, as I told you. The second one will be all about digitalization and digitalization related consulting. We'll follow it with change management consulting, and then we'll go into the details of how consulting can be used as a service to diversify as a business per se, and we'll use the principles from RISE 1 to RISE 4 to get your respective, again, business plans and your relevant areas of action plan coming to play, so that you start moving in that direction and then take that as a part and parcel of your larger service and product portfolio. Okay, with that, let's jump into the consulting principles. Now, okay, consulting, please understand, is all about being a super salesman. All right, a super salesman with key knowledge of the areas that the person is a consultant in. Okay, so that purely defines in a simple way what a consultant is. A consultant will always, because of his expertise, his or her expertise, will know the solution to the problem that is given forth, right? And very articulative, he's very articulate, he or she is an articulate person to come out with and pinpoint the solution given the scenario that has been, encompassed while giving and the person listening to what the problem was in either the corporate or the individual functional domains of the institution that he's been dealing with. Okay, now with that said, the key principle in consulting is pointed as a pro tip there, right? So the problem understanding is one of the first one, followed by pointed solution, right? As I mentioned to you, they're key solution finders. So second is the pointed solution finding. Third is prioritizing, right? So even if they have all the solutions for the relevant problem, they might not go about giving a big bang, right? They might go serially in that, understanding the reactive activities. So principles of design thinking are still working in a consultant's head, right? What works best, and they come up with MVP 1, MVP 2 as a solution, and then see how it best culturally fits into the environment. Though he might have all the answers, he might diverge in a subsequent fashion. All right, and then presenting the final one after going through the key stakeholder inputs and so on and so forth. So they play very smartly, right? As a salesman, they maneuver themselves. They have the holistic solution, but they get to the pointed form, they prioritize it, and then go about presenting the solution, right? That's the key role of a consultant, right? In its simplest format. So good listeners understand the problem. Since they have the knowledge, they would in their mind already know the solution to this, but they'll verify the solutions by going through the stakeholders within and without, and with that, at the right time, go about divulging themselves into respective details of the solution. By the time when they reach, they would have filtered out the right kind of solution that fits into that environment and give that as an outcome. So that is the role of a consultant, and that is how they play at their best. Okay, so if this is the the key elements that go into making of a consultant, right? What are the key attributes that a consultant would have to be a consultant, right? And here I want you to probably start wearing a hat where you start, looking yourself at the mirror and see where you resonate with and which are the areas that you won't, okay? And where you don't, that is the area to be worked upon from the line of becoming a consultant, okay? So the first one, say persona of a consultant, right? And if you see, these acronyms are put in a fashion which are easily rememberable. Now from a persona we put CAMP, for traits we put ACT, and from a capability perspective we put SLEEP. So CAMP, ACT and SLEEP, that's the larger kind of acronyms for remembering what the persona, traits and capability of a typical consultant is. So starting with K, right, the knowledgeable, the consultant is a knowledgeable person with larger view, right, and the larger view typically goes into geopolitical and cultural aspects of things. So that's what this means, right? Then of course without analytical skills, right, the A stands for analytical skills. Now without that, of course, a consultant will never be able to give a pinpointed solution. So the analysis gig is to the top, right? They are top analysts in their specific domain of activities, so they could find solutions. They are able to find solutions in their subject activities at the best that they can. And then M is methodical in approach, right? So a consultant, right, he's managing a lot of areas to give a solution to somebody who might be good or better, or might be of a wider knowledge where that he's dealing with, or multitude of people that he or she is dealing with, right? So the approach that a consultant takes, right, has to be very methodical and in a timely fashion. So they are very well regulated lot who understand what should be given, what should be taken at the right times, and should be presented in a very methodical fashion, right? So that's a very important trait within the persona of a consultant. Then they are practical in deriving solutions. I mentioned the fact that they go within and without to find relevantly give out information, even if they would know the larger solution. They will diverge into smaller solutions and try that bit out to see how culturally it fits into a larger environment, because typically consultants deal with larger institutes and larger corporates who typically take the service because they can afford them, and with that, hence it is very important for them to go as with a methodical approach to provide a solution which could be pinpointed. Hence they also do a trial and error by giving what fits in the cultural environments which they might not know what would hit them, okay? And they typically deal with the top brass. So knowledgeable, analytical, methodical and practical. These are the key traits from a persona perspective of a consultant. Once you meet a consultant, you typically would know that they have enough knowledge, they have analytical skills, so they might pinpoint some things very categorically. They will be methodical in their approach and giving something out accordingly, and then whatever they give will be a practical outcome. Practical from a perspective of what suits at the best in the environment that is given to them for a solution. All right. So that's the persona, and using CAMP for the key personality traits of key personality attributes of a consultant. From a traits perspective, right, the ACT, it deals with the attitude of a consultant. Now, attitude would mean in this case is, these guys are very key listeners of everything, right? Means that listeners is that's not about listening and forgetting. The communication coming to them gets so very well filtered with them that they would understand what the customer or whomever they're dealing with, what are they trying to tell him, or what is the real problem, right? Because the words might not give the problem, but understand the holistic view will give them the instance of the problem that the customers are facing, and so on and so forth, and how so they can give the right kind of solution, right? In most of the cases when consultants are deployed, the customers might not even know what they're looking for. That's a reality, right? They might not even know. So a consultant typically hears them out, hears also a solution from them, and gives a solution in a very packaged solution as a packaged outcome of the solution, right? So that's a typical behavior of a consultant. Please understand this, okay? So they play a psychological role in that sense. Hence, the attitude plays an important perspective here from a traits point of view, okay? So they are more psychological. They will hear the problem. They will also find a solution for them, because in that environment, the customer themselves will know the solution, just that they are not looking at it from the point of view as a third party. They're just involved in it. Okay, so and this is a common thing, right? Because in my consulting days, this has been a common trait. Be a solution, be a technical outcome, or whatever that was, it has always come out from the customer itself, and just that we were filtering it to the extent that what they want to hear. Got it? From that, second is creative thinking, right? So this, what I mentioned to you, is also part of the creative outcome that they do. They will package things in a particular way that what the customer wants and is looking for, they'll find the right kind of words, they'll find the right kind of settings, right? Settings means how it best fits in the cultural environment, and also from a creative perspective, right? Even extrinsically, that means the look and feel of things, right? So they create certain ambience to be presented ethically in a fashion which best suits the purpose of the customer. So they're creative thinkers. They will think out of the box, right? Remember the tip tops and so on. So these guys are tops of the world, right? They think very, very differently from the rest of the zones would otherwise. Now, with that said, the T of the act, right? Thinking out of the box. I just mentioned that. So creative thinking comes because of their capability of thinking outside the box. So, the solution that comes about is basically heard from the customer, but they think it from a perspective of how the culturally it works in the settings of the customer, but is also with times and future ready from the environment that the customer is surrounded with. So that is also typically one of the solutions, because the customer is not looking far away, or even if he's looking far away, he doesn't know the nuances of the environment that he is in, and that's where the consultant plays a role. So so from a persona and the traits, what you got is the camp and now the act. So the act, attitude, creative thinking, and thinking out of the box. These are three elements of a traits, right, of a consultant from a key attributes perspective. Now, what are their capabilities? Okay, so they have enormous capabilities. They're typically jack of many, but they really are master in at least one or two. Okay, and it could be more at times, right? Some of the consultants I know out there are brilliant. They would have mastery in at least 4 or 5. They would talk to the best with better knowledge and better outcome compared to the best in the industry or best in the world out there. Okay, so some of these consultants are brilliant. So having said that, the sleep consists of solution selling capabilities. So as I told you earlier, right, typically consultants are super salesmen, but with higher knowledge of a typical salesman would. Hence, that makes them a better salesman. So solution selling capabilities to the top, because the problem put forth in front of them, they would already have a solution for, but they might divulge in the outcome of the solution in smaller pieces so that they can test the waters, right? L of the sleep, listening capabilities. This has to be from any perspective highest, right? This again, as a human being, you should have the listening capabilities. Listen first to what they want, and in fact, more than listen is understand the communication the other person is trying to give, so that you come back with a adequate outcome for the problem as a solution that you're coming out with. Okay, so that is the reason of listening. Then excellent problem solvers, right? So this is the E of the first E of the sleep. So we've been talking about, right, these guys are problem solvers and they are super salesmen. So there's a common trait throughout. Then the effective writing capabilities, right? So if most of you who've gone through from the Rise 1 to the point of Rise 3, you would have gone through copywriting related ones, right? That how a typical copy is written. These guys have mastered that art. They can write books, they can write blogs, they could write ads, they could type the works, all right, in the best format out there, and becoming the best sellers at the same time for all of that. Okay, so hence if you see a lot of consulting related notes that come out in form of a survey or a white paper or a case study, you will realize the effect, the kind of effect those papers bring about, right? It is to the point, worded rightly, perfect grammar, and from a look and feel perspective, it is the best that you can see. So, so that is a very important element, right? The communication being one of the important elements, writing specifically is a very important element from a consultant's perspective, right? To have the capabilities. And then the presentation capabilities, okay? So how they put forth, I just gave you an example. I've been telling you that they don't divulge, they don't give the solution in one shot. They will test waters at each grade and give the best one, which is pointed. And when they present it, right, people will be like spellbound, right? This is what they were looking for ever since, in the best possible format, in the best ambience, and from a look and feel perspective, what they present, right, be a PPT or a video or whatever they show, will be at the top of the hill. All right. So with that said, from a perspective of the attributes, persona, traits, and capabilities, camp, act, and sleep. Okay. Please understand this. Now, what you need to do is go to the mirror, and mirror doesn't mean go to literally to a mirror, right, guys? So just understand this, that which of these tick marks would you have? If not, which is the area that you should be working on, right? So that you come to the point of becoming that consultant that you want to be. Okay. Now in the next one, we'll go to the framework of consulting. Typically what goes and what are the steps that people take to eventually present the solution that has been put forth in front of them. Okay, I'll see you in that one. So the next lecture is about that.